Yo everyone, how's it going? And welcome back to yet another F1 race reaction. Today we are going to be talking about the Austrian Grand Prix. Obviously we had Styria last weekend, so this weekend was also at the same circuit. And I've got to be honest, I thought that was a much better weekend than the last race we had. Just a lot more going on, lots more sort of intriguing stuff, and obviously for me being British, there was lots of the British drivers, lots to talk about on their sort of side. But yeah, just overall, I thought there were some really good battles going on and some really interesting talking points to talk about. So let's go. So I've literally just come off watching it as well, so we're going to get straight into it then, starting off with, once again, Red Bull. Max Verstappen, dominant once again, taking the fastest lap, 26 points, done. That's it. That's all I can say about Max. He's literally checked out this season. Obviously, you know, there's still a long way to go, but this circuit in general, obviously not much has changed since this week and last week. So another dominant performance from him. And then Sergio Perez finishing in 6th place, obviously coming off with that drama on the start of the race with Lando Norris. Perez sort of trying to go around the outside at turn 4. And Norris keeping his foot in. No contact made, but just ran out wide on the gravel, and unfortunately at main he was down to about P10, I think it was. So yeah, unfortunate for Sergio Perez, but he managed to claw his way back up into 6th place, and then also had some other good interesting battles going on throughout the field as well. But yeah, unfortunately only made up to P6, but more points for Red Bull, and very dominant once again, like I said, from Max Verstappen. So next we'll move on to Mercedes. Valtteri Bottas coming home in 2nd place. That doesn't tell the full story. Bottas was, he had very good pace this weekend, it has to be said. He was keeping up with Lewis and Lando more or less the whole Grand Prix. And then obviously about halfway through, Lewis got told to let Bottas pass because Hamilton picked up some damage earlier on in the Grand Prix, running over some curbs, I think it was. So that obviously hindered his pace throughout the Grand Prix. So Mercedes were like, let's let Bottas through, and obviously give him some more points for the championship and sort of just defend Mercedes' points overall in the constructors as well. So yeah, he finished just ahead of Lando Norris. Norris had such a good pace, which we'll go onto him in a second. But yeah, good weekend for Bottas, I'd say. And again, obviously, just touched on Lewis there. He finished up in 4th place. He also pitted as well after he sort of let Bottas, and once he got overtaken by Lando as well. Obviously, just trying to go for that fastest lap. But even with fresher tyres, with the damage, I think he still didn't have enough pace to take it away, unfortunately. And Verstappen, even with older tyres, was still putting in fastest laps. And then eventually Verstappen came into pit as well for the fastest lap halfway through as well. But yeah, another disappointing day for Mercedes, really, and not the result they would have wanted. So next up is McLaren. Like I just touched on, Lando Norris. What a weekend! And what a season this man is having. The only driver still yet to score every single race in the points as well is absolutely phenomenal. The fact that he was able to keep up with the Mercedes that consistently, like I said, only finished like over a second behind Bottas. It's just incredible. He really deserves it, and obviously getting that P2 as well at the start of the Grand Prix, and obviously, like I said, having that little scrap with Perez at the start of the Grand Prix. It's just brilliant to see him getting his elbows out, and obviously had that little battle with Lewis as well. Lewis finally managed to get past him. But yeah, it's definitely fair to say that McLaren does have some very good straight line speed. But yeah, absolutely brilliant from Lando Norris. I really hope he continues this performance and gets a better drive for the future, because honestly it's absolutely incredible. And Daniel Ricciardo as well, once again had a bit of a disappointing qualifying, but made up for it in the race, had brilliant pace, and again was putting off some good moves, especially with Charles Leclerc about halfway through the race. He was proper going for it with the Ferrari. Leclerc was taking some really strange lines into turn 4, and I was really concerned for Daniel at one point, because I kept thinking Leclerc was going to sort of lock up into the side of him. But yeah, good day for Daniel Ricciardo, picking up P7. So next up will be the Ferraris. Once again, just touched on Charles Leclerc briefly. Carlos Sainz finished up in P5 and Charles Leclerc in P8. Yeah, good day for Ferrari. They were didn't have the best of qualifying, obviously. I think they qualified 11th and 12th, just outside the top 10. And yeah, they clawed their way back up into the points, and had a good day overall, I'd say. Didn't really see much of Sainz. I mean, we saw him now and then, and obviously he made that move on Ricciardo. Once again, the Ferrari team orders came into play. They let Sainz go ahead of Leclerc, so Sainz could get Daniel Perez at the end of the Grand Prix. But yeah, I thought it was a good performance from Ferrari, and like I said, just touched on with Charles Leclerc, he was making those crazy moves all around Daniel Ricciardo, but he finished in 8th. So next up is AlphaTauri, Pierre Gasly finishing in 9th place. Had a alright race, I think. I don't recall seeing the AlphaTauris much. I knew they were running quite solidly in the top 10 for the first half of the race. But yeah, then it just led to them finishing in 9th. And then Yuki Tsunoda finishing in 12th. The man got about 100 penalties, I think. Kept getting a penalty for running across the pit entry line just before you come into the pits. You have to stay in those boundaries in the entry and on the exit as well, because it's classed as like dangerous driving. Just in case, obviously, someone's coming around the outside of the driver, and obviously if you crash into them and they go flying off, it's a very fast corner as well, the pit exit, the pit entry, sorry, at Austria. So yeah, but after all the penalties he got, he still finished up in 12th as well. So not a great day for Yuki Tsunoda, but could have been worse. So we'll go with Aston Martin next. Aston Martin, Lance Stroll finished 13th, and Vettel had a really weird moment at the end of the Grand Prix, which I'll touch on in a second. I'll start with Lance Stroll first. Yeah, the Aston Martins were running again, a bit like the AlphaTauris. They were sort of running solidly up in the top 10, and yeah, it didn't really count to nothing. I think they all pitted quite early on, obviously because they all started on the soft, I believe. And yeah, it didn't really count to nothing. I think they got held up with like the Williams and the Hasses and the Alfa Romeos and stuff. And then yeah, Vettel at the end of the Grand Prix, once again had a similar race to Stroll, was catching Raikkonen and Russell right at the end there, sort of pushing on the last few laps, and then it was a very weird sort of collision. Vettel sort of did the switch back through turn 4, and then Raikkonen just sort of went into the side of him. I don't really know how to describe it really, and then that both took them off. It says Raikkonen classified 16th, but I'm not really sure if he actually finished the race or not. But either way, he knew he wouldn't have scored any points even if he carried on. But yeah, very weird sort of collision there. But yeah, that meant Vettel DNF'd. It classed him as 17th, but it has DNF next to his name, unfortunately. So yeah, a disappointing day for Aston Martin in that aspect. I also just quickly forgot to mention Alpine as well. Fernando Alonso finishing in 10th, had that really, really good scrap with George Russell on the end of those last few laps there. Finally managed to do the move down towards turn 4. And then Esteban Ocon at the start of the Grand Prix got sort of sandwiched between, I think it was a Haas and an Alfa Romeo. Just had nowhere to go, just one of those lap 1 incidents that sort of happens. And yeah, took his right front off, and that was pretty much his race done. And on the subject of Alfa Romeo, we'll do them next. Antonio Giovinazzi finished in 14th. Once again, the Alfa Romeos didn't really have much pace this weekend. And then Raikkonen, yeah, just explain that situation. Just a really weird sort of bit of contact, especially as he's the most experienced driver on the grid as well. Just very, very odd from Kimi. And I feel like he is making these little amateur mistakes, a bit like in Portugal when he sort of hit Giovinazzi, his teammate, on the right rear. Or the left rear, I think it was. But yeah, once again, it was a similar sort of move, just sort of going a straight line, ever so slightly coming together, and then eventually there was contact. So yeah, not a good day for Alfa Romeo. So next, we'll do Williams, George Russell. I said it last week, and I said it this week. I'm gonna say it again. Just absolute disappointment. He had his best qualifying result last week. He topped that this weekend as well, starting P8 it was, and just held on, or tried to hold on for those last few laps with Alonso. And unfortunately, when you have a 2-time world champion on better tyres than you coming to the end of the Grand Prix, the pressure's on. But Russell was placing his car really well, and I was very impressed with his drive throughout the Grand Prix. Because throughout the whole race, I think he dropped to about 12th at the start, and then throughout the whole race, he was sort of there or thereabouts in the top 10, and then it got to the end of the Grand Prix, and he was in the top 10, and with Alonso chasing him, I was screaming at the TV, but unfortunately, he finished up in 11th place, so just on the cusp of points again for George Russell. And then Nicholas Latifi, 15th. Didn't really see much of him, didn't really do much. So yeah, can't really say much else. And finally Haas, nothing to say on them, didn't see him throughout the whole Grand Prix really. Schumacher finished ahead of Mazepin. That's it. So there we go, guys. That has been my race reaction for the Austrian Grand Prix. And like I said, last week I thought it was an alright race. There were some things going on here and there, but I felt this race was a lot more sort of interesting, especially after the first few laps that we had. And then it sort of continued, and then it was interesting with the McLaren, the Mercedes, and then obviously Perez finding his way back through. We had Daniel Ricciardo finding his way back through as well. Ferraris were getting up there as well, obviously trying to make up as many points as possible, with obviously Norris doing so well and Ricciardo making up all those positions as well. So yeah, there was lots going on. And yeah, so that is it, guys. Let me know, obviously, like I said, your thoughts on today's Grand Prix as well. If you have any suggestions on any other videos that you want me to do, because obviously F1 2021 is coming out very, very soon, let me know in the comment section as well. I do just want to touch on as well, I am currently not very well at the moment either. I don't know if it's because I actually generally have a cold, or I got my vaccine done on Wednesday, so I'm not sure if it's just symptoms from that. But if you can tell I'm slightly ill, it's because I'm ill. So yeah, so please bear with me with that. But yeah, if you have enjoyed, guys, please do give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I'll see you all again in the next one for the Silverstone Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time. Take care.